Hey guys, so as you know, our conversation with Sergio went a little longer than we expected it to be. So we split it into two parts. Here is part two.
Also, going back to the comparison thing, we talked about it last podcast, but we listened to the roommates, and it's with Hafiz. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, but he's Nigerian and Christopher Bilo, and they're based in Houston, Texas. But they basically they're older, they're 30, and they have conversations something similar to us, basically giving younger kids free game as our age. And I kind of got inspired by that because I was like, well, I can give my peers free game too. I mean, if we just have this conversation, or not so much give them free game, but like
Share our experiences
and have them acknowledge the conversation and even think about it for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the thing. It lets them know that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
It lets them know that it's okay to feel what you're feeling, because they're not the only ones feeling this. Someone has already gone through this. Someone can show you, or at least guide you on what they did for them that made them feel better, that you can take and adapt to your own lifestyle.
I wanted to go back to your comparison thing though. That's why I brought up the roommates. They featured two guests, Carl Joseph Hines and Eric Harrison. They have a suit company named Hines and Harrison. They call themselves clothiers, but they just make suits. And I'm like, they're like, we can call us clothiers. I'm like, bro, you just make suits, dog. Like, come on. But and yeah, where do you come up with that word? It's like, you know,
it's
like
2021.
Yeah, you know Pooh, like when he just has the honey, but
yeah.
then he has the tuxedo on with the top hat and,
yeah.
the little cigarette.
Yeah.
He's like clothiers.
Yeah,
like that. Right. Anyways, but Hines, Joseph Hines, he gave a great comparison or a great example of comparison. He's like, you're driving down the highway, and you look at that car over there. And yeah, you can admire it, but you have to keep your eyes on the road, or else you're gonna crash. And if you keep staring at that car, you're gonna eventually crash. And that's basically, and the crash is, what would you call the crash? Depression, or
the crash is different for everybody. The crash can be depression. The crash can be, or the complete opposite. The crash can be that you act out. You start doing things you normally wouldn't do. You start getting into things that are bad for you, or you start hanging out with the wrong crowd. That's a crash that'll eventually lead to something like that. Or, you know, to get real with you, the crash sometimes is suicide. The crash sometimes gets too much where, you know what, I never want to focus back on the road. I just want to stare at that car. If I can't stare at that car, then I'd rather not drive. And that's what it is for some people like that. And
he also said that car is, you can look at it, admire it, use it as motivation, like almost take notes of it and be like, wow, I want to be like that, but then just turn back in the road and stay in your lane, or else you're gonna crash.
Right, exactly. Because
your lane is basically growing. And as yourself as a person, understanding yourself, and basically becoming high value. And we use the word high value from the roommates, and I feel, and we'll give you that definition, but anyways, let me finish the example. Becoming high value, knowing yourself, growing, and basically trying to help others and fill other people's cups, and being like basically a man of God. Like that's for us, because we're guys. Yeah. But the definition of high value, we said, was basically high value mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And I agree with that definition. What do you have to say about that? I definitely think that's a bad definition, but it would be easier for us since we've seen it, and we definitely stay in tune with the roommates. And I should give you a better definition, but that's probably the best I got for now, for the moment. And high value.
What's their definition of high value, Sergio?
Yeah.
High value in terms of what? What are we valuing? What is?
I guess our character.
Our character, our willingness to be self-aware, our willingness to be be to grow or willingness to
Like, I guess high value could be, how could you define yourself to be the number one, I guess.
The number one, like
Number one.
like a 10 being Elon Musk and 0 being you're not even born or like a baby.
like a baby.
Yeah.
See, that one's hard because the value, because you say a baby, but that baby brings value to that family.
Yeah, but it's not high value yet. You know what I mean?
That's what you think, but to that family who's probably been trying to conceive for a while, I mean, remember, babies are a blessing from God. So I think high value is very subjective.
True.
I think high
Yeah, I can
value
see that.
really goes back to your own definition of what you think. I agree that it should be physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. I absolutely agree that those aspects should be placed highly on different areas
But
of our
in,
life.
in terms of us, like us being 20-year-olds, that's what it was more geared towards. That and he's kind of asked you that question.
Yeah, so I guess what I would place high value as a 20-year-old is
That is a great point, though. You brought up as the baby. That's a great point, but
right.
Yeah.
High value as a 20-year-old, I would definitely put it on your ability not to compare yourselves, and your ability not to, your ability to be. It's gonna go back to the vulnerability thing. Your willingness to be vulnerable, because if you're vulnerable, you're able to share genuine human connection with somebody else, because you're letting your walls down and saying, hey, this is a safe place where you can come and talk.
you're willing to learn new things and be open-minded and
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And learning new things it should come from a joy of curiosity, and not not of a need of a survival. Unless those consequences call for those things. But if you're learning a new skill, it should be because you want to learn this new skill. And it doesn't mean you have to practice it. And I mean, it means you have to practice it to be good at it, but it doesn't mean you have to try to monetize it. It doesn't mean you have to try to make money off of it, or do something. If like you're doing right now, if your podcast helps you guys and it makes you feel happy and it fills your cup, and if, like you said, if it helps somebody else, great. But that's not the overarching goal. The goal for you is to just think about the things that are going right now through most 20-year-olds' mind, and let them know that they're not alone. Let them know that what you're going through is very similar to that, albeit in different situations. It's like, the way I would say it is the car is the same, but the road is different.
Ooh, okay. So you're not driving on the highway anymore. You're driving on like a 2-lane road.
You're driving on whatever road you've so far have forged for yourself and whatnot. You can't see what's ahead just yet, but as you get older, the picture becomes clearer. You become to learn new things, because now you're gaining different skills, different assets, different experiences that you can use to build upon that future. I'm a very contextual person. I need to know how it was done in the past to avoid the mistakes in the future. Because just because it was done in the past doesn't mean it's wrong. Something worked. Let's take what worked and let's leave out the negative and try to fix it in today's society.
I want to talk about two things, and I want to talk about vulnerability first. Vulnerability, people don't like vulnerability because of the risk reward thing. There's a lot of risk in being vulnerable, like such as, I suppose, being embarrassed, being that person not being vulnerable with you as well. And what would be another?
Let me flip that on you. Why do you think that's the way?
Because it's very easy for someone to use it against you. That's why I think that way. And I feel like it's a big struggle, especially for us, because if we're vulnerable with kids our age, it's almost as if it's a sign of weakness. And also, if you're too vulnerable, you sound like almost like there's this person on my team. He's sometimes vulnerable, but he's almost too vulnerable. Like he's almost over the top. And I feel like there's a distinction of where if you're too vulnerable, it almost comes off as you're just whiny and you don't want to help yourself. And if you're not vulnerable, you're almost like the ego thing. You know what I mean? But anyways, people don't want to be vulnerable because they don't want to get hurt. I feel like that's very prevalent in today.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because no one wants to feel pain.
Especially in my age, yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to feel sadness.
At our age, yeah.
And I think it goes back to no one really wants to feel uncomfortable in situations like that. So the person who there's such thing as being overly vulnerable, absolutely. But that person, I would argue, is probably just waiting for someone to listen, waiting for someone to actually take what they're saying and really run with it and be like, hey, if you're feeling this, like, maybe you need the extra. What I'm saying, the greatest line I've ever heard about mental health was in a rap song by Hobson, or was it Tyler the Creator? He would say, the loudest man in the room is often the loneliest man in the room.
Why?
Because the loudest man in the room is trying to get attention in that brief moment. He's trying to be the center of attention for those 10, 15 minutes. But when the lights are off, when everyone's back home in their bed, they go back to being alone. They go back
But
to
why
being
does he
with
want
thoughts.
that attention for 10 or 15 minutes? Because maybe it makes him feel
Because
good.
It fills the void. It's a temporary
Yeah,
void.
yeah.
It's a temporary feeling. It's like, hey, you're hungry. You can go eat. You can go grab a quick bite from McDonald's.
But you're not going to feel full.
But you're not gonna. Yeah, it's not gonna be nutritious for you, as
Yeah.
opposed to sitting down and making a meal.
Yeah, it's like the same thing that I've talked about with you before. It's kind of like when you try to act out on your Snapchat stories or your Instagram stories.
Right.
You're waiting for a swipe up. You're
Right.
waiting for someone to reply back to you.
Right.
Or when you
Yeah.
get called buddy.
Yeah, the good old friend zone. I have tons of experience with the friend zone. So, like I said, that's
Yeah,
you know,
I told Sergio. Well, I told him, yeah, dude. That's, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, bro. That's
yeah.
funny.
No, I get that. I totally get that. But I think I think it starts with conversations like this to change the idea that being vulnerable is a bad thing, and whatnot. And your idea of risk reward, that's very true. But that's with anything, with a risk reward. You risk yourself just by walking outside. So what's any different if you tell someone, when you tell someone your vulnerability, you can tell if they're going to respond by their body language, or by their by the follow-up questions to your vulnerability. They're either going to share an experience similar to that, or B, they're going to be awkward and don't know what to do and just kind of silently ignore it or barely touch on it. Or you ever heard this one? Damn, that's crazy.
There was a meme that says they say it 3 times, just don't talk to them anymore.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
because they don't really care.
Well, that or they probably don't know how to respond to something like that. So
it's important to make that distinction.
Yeah.
True. Because you should probably go back and reflect on, be like, do they maybe not know? Did I put them in a comfortable situation? Did I basically didn't even warn them what I was going to talk to them about. I just blew them up with that and probably.
Right, and kind of caught them off guard and stuff.
Yeah.
So
what?
I've had.
Oh, finish your point. I'm sorry.
no,
finish your
go ahead,
points.
Emmanuel.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, and sometimes when they do say that's crazy, from my perspective, I've had some friends come to me with uncomfortable questions that I just don't know how to answer, and it's not that I don't care.
True.
It's not that I don't care. It's just that I honestly don't know how to respond because they put me in such an uncomfortable situation.
It
sounds like
truly is
yeah.
uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like, do I give this person a hug? Do I cry with them? Like I don't know.
You don't know what
say.
to do because
Sometimes you could say the wrong
Right.
things, and it's
Right.
and you don't want to kind of tip them over or anything, you know. So there's some instances like that.
So why don't you ask?
I don't know. I feel because I suppose if you're in that situation in that moment, it's almost like a wait, what? Like you know what I mean? Like they're like what? Like why did you?
And
ask
who do you
me
mean
that?
by like why don't you ask? You're talking about the person who's uncomfortable or the person who's pouring out?
The person who's pouring out.
Why don't you?
Okay.
If the person's uncomfortable and you don't know how to help them, why don't you ask and be like, look, I'm sorry, this is going on right now. How can I help you?
Okay.
Or what's best that I can do for you right now? Because if you try to fix it, you're not listening. You're just trying to solve a problem. That's not listening.
true.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But if you listen to, and honesty is the best policy. If they come to you with something uncomfortable and be like, hey, look, this is something uncomfortable. I've never dealt with this before. This is who I recommend you talk to, or this is what I know about the situation. This is what I know about it. But let's work on it together. Let's work on somebody. Let's find someone together that has more experience in this area. Because if they're vulnerable enough to be with you guys, the first thing you should say is thank you. Thank you for being that vulnerable with me. That reinforces that ability to say it's okay to talk about these things, that it's okay to be a little bit of exposed in those situations. That reaffirms it. That thank you says, okay, this person's gonna cares and they want to talk to me about that. And when there's students that come to my office that say, hey, this and this happened, be like, look, I'm sorry. That sucks. That's it. And sometimes that's all you need. Like sometimes, like that sucks. I hear you, and I want to help you. So what can we do to do that? And it becomes a collaborative effort, and it doesn't become of, oh, this person's gonna fix it. It doesn't become a savior complex. It's we're working together. We're working.
Because I feel like, going back to that, some people look for that. They're like, I just want someone to come and just take all of this away, instead of actually understanding that it's growing. You're growing. Like, you have to take the steps to almost feel better and solve your problem, then recognize when it happens again, and basically put the fire out before it even starts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Sometimes being proactive can help us be... It can be beneficial or it could be detrimental. It really depends on the situation.
I have a second question. With vulnerability, if let's say someone has a bad experience with vulnerability and someone gives you that's crazy 3 times, what do you suggest that person does, or that person doesn't respond in the way you want them to, or that person is just rude in general?
If that person's rude in general, walk away. Just walk away. You don't need to be surrounded by that kind of negative energy or that kind of negative talk. Walk away, and then come back and collect yourself. Obviously, that's someone you'll know that you can't be vulnerable with. If they're rude to the point where it hurts your feelings or or you think that it's gonna cause you more impact later on, then still walk away, collect yourself, and come back and say, hey, I thought it was rude the way you answered this, and I'm just kind of... And don't blast them. Don't call them out and be like, yo, that was dumb. You know,
like F you, F that.
Yeah, you know, don't doing that. That gets nowhere. But like, I just want to let you know that really hurt and that it made me feel this way. And then just be like, and then you don't have to tell me, I won't be coming back to you again. And just be like, make a mental note that's not someone that I can talk to and move forward. And it sucks. It's harder. It's easier said than done.
It does.
Because you want our human intuition that we want revenge, like or we want to get even with that person,
almost so we could feel better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, well, this person made me feel like crap. Now I'm gonna do this to them so they can feel like crap. What does that leave? Just 2 people who feel like crap. Yeah. That. How does that make a world a better place? Instead, if you walk away and collect yourself and come out, that leaves with one person still feeling like crap. And I guarantee you that person is gonna go back and be like, okay, maybe I should have done this a little differently. And there's times where I do that as well, or I'll feel like I reacted justifiably, and then I'll look back and reflect and be like, oh man, I was a complete bad person on that time, or I was very rude to this person on that time.
And you basically have to take responsibility and say,
right. And
I'm sorry. It takes a lot to apologize, and it takes a lot to be vulnerable.
Right.
And people have to recognize that.
And honestly, if you have to apologize and even calling someone out, that takes vulnerability too.
Absolutely.
True.
Absolutely.
Because you're being vulnerable with your character and your ego and who you are.
Because they know where you stand on this now. They know that you're not going to tolerate this kind of behavior or this kind of stuff, so you're going to stand up for yourself. Absolutely. Setting boundaries is immensely important. I'll give you an example of that. When I came here to Bethany and I started to get my friend group, I was like, I love you guys. I was hanging out. I love the pranks and the jokes. I was like, there's only one joke that is off limits for me.
You told me this, yeah.
I was like, no mama jokes. You do not tell me a mama joke because you don't know my mama, and I'll kill you for my mama.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. I was like...
Sergio will not actually kill anybody.
No, yes, I will not. Disclaimer. You can't use this in a trial. Yeah. But no, it's just like, I love jokes and I love going there, but I always felt mama jokes were very disrespectful. In regards to my mom, because no one knows the struggles that my mom had to go and through to survive. I'm a first generation college kid. She had no idea how to navigate the waters of college, so I had to do that. not angry at her with that. She just didn't know. It's not her fault.
Mm-hmm.
So now we both can learn about this now. So when hopefully my niece decides to go to college, or any one of our billion cousins that we have is ready to go to college, they now have a resource to go in there and ask how the process works. But setting your boundaries in the beginning is a huge sign of vulnerability. And it's a sign of and it'll garner respect from your peers as well. So, and they respected that throughout the entire time. To this day, my friends and I still don't do yo mama jokes. To that, and if you say your boundaries, you can't. You can't be
can't
the
go
one.
back from
Yeah,
it, yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
You can't say, "Oh, this time is okay because I said it." Like,
Then
no.
do yo mama jokes to them, like
Right, yeah, and that's the
Yeah,
thing. Is
that's
like I won't do your mama jokes
hypocritical.
to you if y'all don't do mama jokes to me, and we'll go from there. And and it's hard because sometimes a perfect yo mama joke just kind of falls in your lap, and you want to be like, but it takes that conscious restraint to be like, no,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Hey, sir, you kill me, like, I gotta step away. So
you're like,
yeah, so just setting those boundaries is huge important. And I think at 20 you're also figuring out what your boundaries are, like how much can I take and how much can I not, how much can I dish out and how much can I actually take.
okay.
And that is super hard to figure out. I grew up being the class clown, kind of the comedian type of the group, and teachers would tell me like, it's like, we love having you in class, but you can't distract people. You can't take away from their learning because it's not fair to them. And when they told me that I was taking away from somebody else's learning, that
It kind of hit you. You
yeah,
were
that
like,
hit me. I was like,
yeah.
oh, I don't want to take away from that. Like, I was just trying to make somebody feel better. And there's situations where it definitely calls for a humorous activity, but sometimes it absolutely doesn't. And so, and I'm trying to figure out that balance to this day. When I'm coming up with material, or when I'm just in regular old situation. Like I said, I find dark humor hilarious, but that's more trauma than anything. With stuff. But it really comes down to who you are as a person, and if you're comfortable with it enough
Right.
as a person. So, and no one can take that away from you. No one can take your identity away from you. You are your own person, and own up to your mistakes, and people will respect you for it. If you own up and say, I messed up, how can I improve? But if you say I messed up, I don't care anymore, or you get angry, you lash out, that's a child reacting. That's a child's reaction. You take away their toy, they're gonna do the first thing they do is an emotional reaction. But we all have that person inside us, our inner child and the adult. And that's what I learned in therapy. Like, yeah, I'm in therapy. I see a therapist twice a month, and I think therapy is huge. I think everyone, if we could afford it and if it made fiscal sense, that everyone in the entire world should do therapy at some point or another, because we just need, and to go to therapy isn't because you're crazy or because you're suffering from this or that. It's just because you want to learn about your behaviors and how to improve upon them or stop some of them.
And therapy is also a safe place. You can,
Right,
because the
absolutely.
first thing they tell you is, I will not disclose any of this information to anybody,
Right.
except unless you want to kill somebody or you're gonna hurt
Right.
yourself. Like,
Well, that, and it's against the law. So it's this is that therapist
yeah,
confidentiality.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, so they're just telling you you're basically your secret safe with me. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Not only is your secret safe with me, but let's talk about it. Let's see.
let's help you. Let's
Yeah,
solve this problem.
Let's see how it is. So again, I'll continue to plug CFS. If anyone's struggling, go talk to Daniil and
Please,
CFS.
it helps a ton. Like, it almost feels as if
A weight has been lifted off your shoulders.
yeah, like 500 pounds is off your shoulders.
Yeah,
or
'cause
even maybe
definitely.
45 pounds. Like,
Right. Because what they'll do is that they'll validate your feelings. That's the first thing they do. They'll validate, like, yeah,
that's important too.
yeah, to validate that, yeah, it's okay to feel this way, but it's not okay to stay there. It's not okay to stay angry. It's
Because
not-
if you're there, you won't be able to grow and you won't be able to
Yeah,
move
no.
on.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a literal wall. You can't move. You're stuck. So you have to learn to take the criticisms, and yeah, and sometimes taking down behaviors is going to take a while. Been in therapy for about a year now, and I would not be the person that I am today if it wasn't for these things. I'm able to set those boundaries and identify my behavior and change it when and if I want to.
Okay.
But it takes your willingness to be vulnerable with somebody else, and to really not care what that other person's going to say or think or feel. If you remember, there's nothing new under the sun that God hasn't already created or doesn't already know.
Yeah, we've been communicating that like a ton at least. Yeah, we've been communicating that a ton, or like every
yeah. No,
like
it's because it's true. It is very true. But I mean, if life was easy, everyone would do it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, in a good way, in an unfortunate way.
Yeah, but sometimes, and it's unfortunate when that happens. And the reason I bring that up is because I have a personal experience. So I'm gonna be real with y'all in a little bit. So when I moved from the cities to Albert Lee, I had a hard time adjusting. A hard time, new environment, new people, new culture because it's a smaller town, new everything, and I had a very, very tough time. It got so bad to the point where I wanted to take my own life. I attempted suicide when I was a sophomore in high school. It sucked. It was hard.
I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, no, well, thanks, but it I thank God for it all the time because he's like, no, stay. I'm not done with you there. The biggest thing, if anyone takes anything from this, is that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It won't solve anything. You're going to leave hurt and pain for the other one. So that's actually what led to me wanting to major in psych and wanting to understand mental health a little bit more. And so I tried to hang myself, and police were called, and I was in the emergency room, and because the police were called, an officer was with me the whole time, and they said, "Yep, you need to be admitted." And so this was in Albert Lee, so I had to ride in the back of a cop cruiser from Albert Lee to Rochester to be at St. Mary's Psychiatric Ward. And boy, was that life-changing. You walk in, I got admitted about 3 o'clock in the morning. They gave you I didn't have any clothes on me, so they gave me oversized sweats and a big T-shirt and said, "This is your bed. Take me. Do you want anything?" And I had some juice, some apple juice, and a pizza. You didn't want to eat at that point or anything. You wake up the next day, you do the patient intake. A group of psychiatrists and psychologists come in, and they talk to you and they evaluate you. And
how's that like? How'd that make you feel?
Did it feel like a guinea pig a little bit?
Because a bunch of people were just like, here, help me. What do you want? And you see, like, trying to get you out of there, or like?
No, a lot of people just came in and they were mostly trying to figure out and understand things and see where it come to understand. Because you do an evaluation, you do those kinds of things. So then you do the group therapy, and then you do individual therapy and stuff, and you're really there just to kind of reset. And I loved it. I loved being I loved it. I can say that now. I hated it when I was there. I felt like I had failed.
You love what it did to you rather than, I mean, the psychiatric ward itself.
Right, yeah. It was way better than the alternative.
Definitely.
I'll tell you that. Yeah. But it helped me. It gave me the opportunity to really understand. Because there was, and when all fails, you can always think of this. Someone else has it worse than you all the time. When I was in there, that was evident. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I'm here because I can't adjust to a freaking new school, and these people are not to invalidate my own feelings, but these people are having some real issues. So that was really eye-opening.
Put it in perspective a little bit.
Yeah, big time put in perspective. I could see the pain it caused my mom because she felt like a failure as a mother. And I could see the pain it caused my brother and my sister. They're like, well, why can't my brother come home? Why is my brother here? And we need him home. And I was in there for a week. So I was in there for a week. It was so October. The last week in October always gets a little weird for me because that's right around Halloween is when I got released from the hospital and whatnot. And I continued therapy afterwards, and it helped. Therapy helped, and it really helped me. I had to go through that. I had to be at the bottom, the very, very bottom of the barrel, to know what it was like to enjoy sunshine, to know what it was like to appreciate smelling the flowers, because it could be a hell of a lot worse, big time worse. And I think that's what most people don't get. They're like, oh, you're, and I wasn't suicidal prior to that, but it was in that moment, in that instant, like, I don't want to live anymore. It's not worth it. I'm done. And so, and luckily they got to me before I even tried anything, but that week in the hospital has changed my life profoundly to everything. That's why I'm a big advocate for mental health. That's why I'm a big advocate for people talking to someone and then know that they're not alone. and to know that suicide sucks, and everyone here has probably been either someone who has committed suicide, or of someone who has at least attempted suicide.
I've definitely know someone who's has committed suicide. Yeah.
Right, it's tough. And look, and this is a small sample size. This is only 3 people. Could you imagine that nationwide? You look, and it hits certain populations worse.
It's tough to talk about for right. Sure.
Yeah.
We were talking about this last podcast, but we applaud this generation for bringing for. You can talk about
breaking the stigma for mental health.
Absolutely.
For showing that depression is more than just feeling sad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's big props to Gen Z, and I would give millennials some credit for that as well.
But first of all, I want to say thank God that you're here, because thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
I hope that encouraged people who are going through
a tough time, from someone who's been at
rock bottom,
right?
To appreciate life more. Show that you have a mom that loves you. You have people.
Not only does suicide impact yourself, it impacts others as well.
Yeah, it has a nasty ripple effect on it, and the world is much better with you in it. I guarantee you, the world is much better with you in it than as opposed to out of it. But that week changed my life, and I use it as fuel to this day. Not negative fuel, or like it could have gone 2 ways. I could have been said, "Oh, I'm gonna be mentally ill for the rest of my life. I'm never gonna improve, and so this is my excuse to be a crappy person." Or what I did, I was like, this is my motivation for when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling like I can't do it, and be like, look where you were almost at. Look at the funeral that your family would have had a plan for you. Look at your mom. Look at those eyes. What you would never see those eyes again. You never hug your brother. You never hug your sister again. You never do all these other things. So when I look at that, I'm like, and when I think of when I'm that sad again, oh man, I'll call my sister. And my sister, she's special needs, so she can't verbally communicate, but she's the happiest person I've ever met. She calls me on the dot like clockwork at 9 a.m. and then again around 5 or 6 to make sure that I've eaten breakfast and make sure I've eaten dinner. He don't give a if I ate lunch. Oh, sorry. She don't care if I
pause.
We'll bleep that out.
She don't care if I eat lunch, but that's what it is. And so when you're down there, and I know it feels like no one cares, and I know it feels like darkness engulfs you and surrounds you, but in the darkest of rooms there is light. There is light because Christ is light, and Christ is everywhere. And I didn't realize it at that time in there, and I actually ended up being an atheist in high school for a bit. But I think back to all those times where I could have just given up, and I'm like, there's a reason why I'm still here, and that's why when it affects our veterans that put their lives on the line, every 22 minutes a veteran commits suicide, or nursing. The nursing profession has also high rates of suicide because they see trauma day in and day out on those kinds of things. So props to Gen Z, props to millennials for saying that trauma is real, depression is real, anxiety is real. Don't let it go unchecked. Don't let it go unchecked. Go talk to someone. There's a national suicide hotline. There's all these different resources that can help you, and that'll help you with what you're struggling with. Because, like I said, that's why it goes back to the self-made man. It doesn't exist because no one gets through this life alone. I would have gotten through that experience alone. It took the team of therapists. It took my family support system, and it took all that to get through. So the next time a big life-changing event like that happened for me, I knew who I could go to, and I knew what steps that I could take to prevent that kind of stuff. But
my question I had was, with Gen Z, do you think there's maybe that's more of like the macho ego guy in me? Do you think people are maybe being too overly vulnerable, or to the point where it's like they're just sharing stuff just so they can get a reaction?
Is it like, are you asking, are they sharing it for clout type of thing?
Yes.
I think you're gonna have bad eggs in every generation and people with bad intentions to do
I
this.
suppose that's more of a perception reality thing. I'm kind of taking like what I see on my phone and
Right.
and basically grouping everybody.
Right, and that's normal. We tend to do those kinds of things, but at the same time, I think that one's hard. I don't think they're doing it for clout. I think there's, like I said, there's bad eggs that some maybe do it, some maybe fake the thing because it's cool. You know, maybe people think it's cool to listen to Billie Eilish and be immensely depressed. Like, no. I mean, you can listen to her music, fine, but it's not cool to be depressed. Like,
Right. Yeah.
it's not cool to be in those feelings for that long. But no, I think Gen Z is just more prevalent with it. They're more forward with it. And because they're just waiting for someone to listen.
Right.
And much like we are, and we're just waiting for someone to listen and to hear us and to the big V word, validate us, and show us that, hey, what you're feeling is normal. Hey, what you're feeling is hard. But here's the part that makes me mad about Gen Z. Then take steps to prove yourself, to improve yourself. You gotta
They kind of
follow
want to
through.
just get validated
Yeah, instead
and
of just
Yeah.
feeling sorry for
consistently
Right.
all the
get
time.
validated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess
It's-
that's more of what I was trying to get at.
It's that victim mentality. Going back to that, it's just like, okay, yeah, you recognize the problem, you're sad. What you gonna do about that?
Right.
Are you gonna, is it your diet? Is it your who you hang out with? Is it your lifestyle? What are you doing? I'd be depressed too if all I did was go to school for 8 hours, come home, eat chips, and watch TV, and do nothing.
Yeah.
Like I'd be really depressed. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're not
but-
even trying to help yourself. Why?
Right.
Why?
I mean,
Yeah.
there's days where you can go home and do that, call it a self-care day. But if that's all you do,
It's
dangerous.
not hard to point out the problem when you can easily see it. Like,
right, right.
Also, do you think that people posting it on social media is like a reason for clout, or it's more of a reason for them just to almost feel validated, or is it a little bit of both, or do you think it's just them just to just get attention? Basically, clout again.
It's a two-part answer for that one. I think one, first and foremost, social media is a lot more prevalent. It's a lot more of the norm. So it's
Definitely,
it's
yeah.
easier for the not.
Yeah, we're in 2020. It's not
Yeah.
2010 anymore.
Because I can still
2021.
yeah. Yeah, right.
Sorry, guys.
Right. So I think it's normal. I still remember a time where before the internet didn't even exist. Like I'm still part of that generation where Google. I'm older than Google. So
Damn you old.
yeah, I know, right?
Damn you old.
Right. So when those things, that's the part. I think it's much more the norm to do that. And then the second part to that answer is that I think that I don't have anywhere else to go. They don't have anywhere else to turn, and so someone validating from halfway across the world is what they need. Is it right? I don't think so. But at the same time, I'm not going to say it has a completely 100% negative effect. No, I think there's still some positivity in that. Someone is still being validated halfway across the world by a complete stranger. That's why I say humanity is connected again. So they're totally aware of those things. So you build that community, you build that friendship, and you build that rapport with that person. But yeah, so it's social media is kind of the norm, so that's where they go. And B, they don't know who to talk to or what to talk to about, and those things. And again, the other half of Gen Z and the other half of just humanity will rip on you for being that vulnerable and being that. Well, the other half will praise you. And I told you this last time, Ernie. Making everyone happy is hard, but pissing people off is easy. And sometimes fun. I'm not saying don't do it. This isn't an endorsement to go make people mad.
The registrar is not telling you to do this.
Right. But I think it's you look at those things and it's like, well, why? You got to ask yourself why, and what am I gaining from this? And oftentimes you're not gaining anything by being mean or not validating them. That way, if it's half and half, that's where you got to be secure in your roots, secure in who you are. So when the other half validates you and the other half puts you down, the half that puts you down, you can respect their perception, but you don't have to accept it as your reality. Their reality is not your reality. And sometimes that's hard. And I can promise you that Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, Vine, Parler, Discord, Twitter, whatever it is, you name it.
R.I.P. Vine.
Yeah,
For real.
right. It's not. That's not the norm. That those are snippets of people's lives to project themselves as something happier.
Perception versus reality.
Right,
That's
happier than they are, and sometimes you need that, but sometimes you don't.
This is a great conversation. I wish we
this
could
is
go
really
longer.
good.
Do you have any final questions for Sergio or anything you want him to touch on?
I just want to say, I thank you for opening up about your story about suicide. I've almost committed suicide before, and what you said about how it would affect your mom and your family, that really touched me, and I hope it really touched the people who are listening that are going through that too. That there are people that care for you, and your pain. When you end the pain yourself, you're only spreading that pain to other people.
Right.
And I thought that was real powerful, what you said. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Honestly,
Yeah,
thank you. I definitely appreciate every single conversation we have, because not only does it put it in perspective, but it also gives me something to understand, basically be more self-aware and see other people as well, like see it and basically put what their situation in perspective and almost be kind to everybody as well.
Right.
And
right.
I appreciate that conversation, not only because you're my gente, you're my people, you're my people. Like honestly, you're awesome. I definitely thank you for everything.
No, thank you guys for doing this. These conversations are important. Don't stop with your podcast.
They are 1,000% important. That's exactly why we wanted to have these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And to anyone struggling out there with depression, anxiety, mental health, whatever, go talk to someone.
But more importantly, make the distinctions between right, wrong, improving, and just victim mentality.
Right. I think once you realize that it's a victim mentality, that you have the power to change it. And I'm all about empowering yourself and taking steps to do that. So the last parting thoughts I'll leave people with is first of all, my office door is always open for anyone who's struggling or talking or just wants to shoot the breeze.
Anybody that lives on campus or goes to Bethany Lutheran College.
Right, yeah. Absolutely. That, or, get at me at my email or whatever, and I'll let you guys share that or whatever. But the last piece of knowledge that I would kind of say is that this life doesn't owe you anything. No one owes you anything. Life is what you make of it. And so if you put in time, effort, sweat, tears, sweat equity into building your empire, you will have an empire. If you build your time into chasing trends, chasing money, chasing tangible items that don't fill your soul, you're going to have a bad time. And I encourage you to reevaluate yourself. Yes, it's easier to cry in a Lamborghini than an old beat-up Nissan Xterra, but you're going to be alone in that Lamborghini, and I'm not going to be alone in my Xterra. It's got 3-row seating, man. I can fit. It doesn't, but
me and the boys are going shopping.
Right, like I got a roof rack. Oh, my whole support system will fit somewhere in this car. Wow. So just talk to someone. What you're going through is real, and just smile. Just smiling at someone changes their day. It takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. And when we smile, it releases some of those happy chemicals in the brain. So
again, thank you so much for
thank you
coming
guys
on our podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sergio.
Yeah,
really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you guys.
And thank you guys for listening. You can follow me and Emmanuel, myself at _E Armenta on Instagram.
And you can just follow me everywhere at Emmanuel LKD.
Do you want people to...
Yeah, if you guys want to follow my Instagram, I'll start sharing inspirational quotes, but I'm at Power Surge. That's Wait, hold on. Let me double check. I spell it 2 different ways because it's also my gamer tag.
Can they find you anywhere else as well, or just Instagram?
Yeah, they can find me I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and so My
Just
Instagram.
just not sharing Snapchat.
Yeah, let's
No,
not
it's
share.
confidential.
Yeah, definitely not sharing that one.
Don't send me
Okay.
weird snaps.
Yeah, right. My Instagram is at PowerSurge. That's POWERSURGE 25 on Instagram. And then because I made the Twitter back when I was an egotistical maniac, my Twitter, I believe, is what is my Twitter? I think, yes, I'm at King Sergio 25. Very egotistical, I know. I'm at King Sergio 25, so holler me on there. It is, some of my content is not safe for work, and it is over 18. So that, remember, I am a part-time comedian, so I do share some funny stuff. So
Again, the last time I'm gonna say thank you, but thank you again for coming on our podcast. I'm Ernie Armenta.
I'm Emmanuel LKD.
and I'm Sergio Salgado.
And we're out.
We're out.
Thank you.
Peace.